Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of What If Demonic Saiyan was in Death Note. Last time we left off after Mrs. arrest and Light handing himself into the Kira task force. With everyone caught up, let's begin. After Light's imprisonment, the Kira executions have ended, and LS suspicion is heightened, all while Ryuk suffers withdrawal periods. After 1 week, Light decides that now is a good time to give up the Death Note. As Ryuk leaves and Light loses his memories, his immediate behavior is one of severe bewilderment. Puzzling L. The Kira executions resume the next week, enough to compensate for the 2-week drought. Soikyo is informed, but L holds this from Light, still suspecting him. Meanwhile, I fly back home to London, surprising my mother, who's overjoyed to see me. I tell her that I missed her and thought I would come see her. After catching up with her, she fills me in on the current state of the UK. Crime rates had plummeted to a level never seen before, but police presence had also increased. Police were searching every house in London but found no traces of the British Kira. Eventually giving up their search after the royal family member Prince Andrew died due to blood loss from his crown jewels. After dinner, I excuse myself and head up to the loft, where I start searching for any records of my birth. Amidst the old documents, I notice an old safe with a 6-digit code. After a few attempts, I manage to open it, finding my birth certificate inside. As I examine it, I notice that there are no records of my father. This raises my suspicions further, prompting me to search deeper. Taking the birth certificate out of the box, I notice something odd about the back. It seems false. Prying it open, I find a death note hidden beneath it. Shocked, I wonder if what REM had told me was true. She mentioned that despite looking human, I acted more like a Shinigami, suggesting that my mother might have been in contact with one in the past. Upon making contact with the notebook, I see the memories of the previous user flood into my mind. In the memories revealed by the Death Note, I witness my mother's discovery of the Death Note and her first contact with the Shinigami, Mortis. It was a stormy night when she stumbled upon the black notebook, fall into an old chest in the attic of our family home. Initially, she was terrified by its ominous presence, but her curiosity got the better of her, and she opened it. As soon as she touched the Death Note, Mortis appeared before her. He was a towering figure, no skin, an exposed skull, abnormally long limbs, a sharp jawline and bulging black eyes with red irises. His presence was intimidating, but as my mother interacted with him, she discovered that he wasn't inherently malevolent. Despite her fear, my mother and Mortis formed an unlikely friendship. She learned that Mortis was a Shinigami who had grown tired of the monotony of the Shinigami realm and sought excitement in the human world. Over time, my mother's fear melted away, replaced by genuine affection for Mortis. Their friendship deepened into something more, and they eventually fell in love. Mortis, despite being a creature of death, showed my mother kindness and understanding that she had never experienced before. Their bond transcended the barriers between their worlds. However, their happiness was short-lived. When my mother was in labor with me, she encountered a group of criminals who threatened her life. Mortis intervened, sacrificing himself to save her and my life. It was a moment of heartbreak for my mother, losing the one she loved, so much so that she gave up ownership of the Death Note. Forgetting everything about Mortis except that she once deeply loved someone. As I witnessed the memories, I came to learn of my heritage and questioned whether I could even be classified as human at this point. It was a profound realization that shook the very foundation of my identity. Looking out of the window, I pondered if I could also possess the abilities of a Shinigami. Gathering my courage, I made a bold decision. I decided to test whether I could fly like a Shinigami. With a leap of faith, I jumped out of the window. For a moment, the exhilarating rush of the wind surrounded me as I plummeted towards the ground. But just before I hit the pavement, black wings sprouted from my back, unfurling to catch me in midair. However, in my excitement, I lost concentration, and the wings vanished. I hit the ground, but to my surprise, I was unharmed. If anything, I felt invigorated, stronger than before. Undeterred by the momentary setback, I resolved to try again. With newfound determination, I took off into the sky once more. The sensation of flight was unlike anything I had ever experienced. It was liberating, empowering. I felt as free as a bird soaring through the heavens. Realizing that it would be bad if someone saw me, I would quickly land and search for strange unidentified sightings on the internet after getting back home. However, to my shock, there were none relating to a humanoid-shaped object flying, only false alien sightings. I would then deduce that when I am in what I dub Shinigami mode, I am invisible to the human eye. Testing my hypothesis, I entered a shop in my Shinigami mode and ate an apple, placing the money on the counter and watching as the cashier fell out of his chair in shock. Taking off his glasses and rubbing his eyes. Satisfied with the results, I decided to push the limits further. Entering a prison, I executed every prisoner right in front of them, exploiting my invisibility to carry out my actions undetected. With access to people in secure locations and no records online, I decided to take my mission to the next level. I flew to the USA and infiltrated at Max Florence United States Penitentiary, known as the most secure prison in the world. Stealing a guard's apple and eating it in front of him, I then proceeded to write the names of every prisoner, swiftly executing them all. My actions were bold and calculated, exploiting my Shinigami powers to carry out my mission with precision. As I left the prison, undetected and unseen, I realized the extent of my capabilities and the potential they held to reshape the world according to my will. Over the next week, I embarked on a daring mission to empty the top 10 most secure prisons around the world. With my Shinigami powers granting me invisibility and unparalleled access, I executed my plan with precision and stealth. First, I targeted Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary, once considered the most secure prison in the United States. With swift and silent movements, I eliminated every inmate within its walls, leaving no trace of my presence. Next, I flew to La Santé prison in France, Arthur Road jail in India, and Fushu prison in Japan, seamlessly infiltrating each facility and dispatching every prisoner. My mission then took me to the Federal Correctional Complex in the United States, Camp Delta in Guantanamo Bay, HMP Belmarsh in the UK, Tadmor Military Prison in Syria, and Xinjiang Prison in China. With each location, I executed my plan flawlessly, leaving no room for error. The world watched in disbelief as reports surfaced of entire prison populations mysteriously dying without a trace. But to me, it was all part of a larger scheme to reshape the world according to my vision, using the power of the Death Note and my newfound abilities as a Shinigami. As L intensified his efforts to locate me, the British Kira, he directed more resources and manpower into the investigation. With the original Kira, Light Yagami, believed to be in his custody, L was determined to apprehend me and put an end to the reign of terror I was unleashing. However, despite L's best efforts, I remained elusive to him and the entire Kira task force. My ability to move swiftly and without leaving any traces made it nearly impossible for them to track me down. Every lead they followed seemed to lead to dead ends, frustrating their attempts to corner me. Utilizing my Shinigami powers, I continued to evade detection, moving seamlessly between locations and executing my plans with precision. I stayed one step ahead of the investigation, carefully covering my tracks and ensuring that my presence remained hidden from prying eyes. As L and the task force scrambled to uncover my identity and whereabouts, I watched from the shadows, knowing that my actions were reshaping the world according to my own desires. With each passing day, my influence grew stronger, and the grip of fear I held over society tightened. As Soikyo took Misa out of her cell, she briefly mistook him for her stalker until he revealed himself as a detective, triggering partial restoration of her memories of being arrested. Soikyo then escorted Misa to another compound where Aizawa dropped off Light. Together, the three were driven to the execution site, with Soikyo revealing the grim truth. The UN and Japanese government had unanimously decided on their execution without trial due to the ongoing killings attributed to Kira. Both Light and Misa protested vehemently, but Soikyo remained resolute. As they crossed over a bridge, Soikyo suddenly diverted the car under it, intending to resolve his inner turmoil by shooting Light and then himself, allowing Misa to escape. However, the gun Soikyo fired at Light turned out to be loaded with a blank cartridge. Soikyo and L then revealed the true purpose of the ordeal. It was a test to determine if Light and Misa were truly Kira. If they were, they would have been compelled to kill Soikyo under the circumstances. Since they didn't, their innocence was confirmed, and their names were cleared by L. However, L remained suspicious of Misa's involvement, given that her DNA was found on the audio tapes. Deciding to maintain surveillance, L placed security cameras in Misa's room. Misa was allowed to return to her life, while Light was to remain constantly with L for further observation. Upon learning of Light's release, I returned to Japan and visited Misa to check on her condition during her time locked up. Afterwards, I accompanied Misa to the headquarters entrance to make small talk with Light, but once he had gone back inside, I activated my Shinigami form and snuck into the building invisibly. Inside, I meticulously searched the place, writing the names of all the task force members in my death note, withholding the last letters of their names to be prepared to execute them at any moment. After leaving, I made my way to the Yozuba company, entering undetected in my Shinigami form. There, I wrote the names of all 8 higher-ups in my death note, once again withholding the last letters of their names. Before departing, I took a moment to converse with REM, sharing my past and discoveries with her. As a final act, I knocked over an executive's coffee, leaving chaos in my wake as I disappeared into the shadows. On the 28th of October, I turned on the TV and learned that Matsuda, a member of the task force, was about to reveal the identity of the Yozuba Kira on Sakura TV. Following the police chase, I quickly got in my car and drove behind the cops. As Soikyo and Mogi apprehended Higachi, L instructed them to place a helmet on his head through which they could communicate with a microphone. Asked by L how he kills, Higachi admitted to having a magic notebook, but before he could reveal more, his head suddenly exploded as I wrote his name in my death note, shocking everyone. After searching his car, the Kira task force found his death note and saw REM, terrifying them. I handed the death note to L, who realized that Shinigami truly existed. Remembering every mention of a notebook during his investigation, including the second Kira's meeting with the first Kira on the 22nd of May in Aoyama, L realized that there was another notebook in the human world. While L pondered this, Light took the death note from L's hands, causing all of Light's memories of being the original Kira to return. It was revealed that Light had planned the entire thing. The notebook Higachi used was Light's original death note, and Light had made it so that REM owned that death note and he forfeited Misa's while in confinement, thereby allowing him to regain all of his original memories. Additionally, when he gave away his death note, he had Ryuka'd 2 fake rules that had no effect. One stating that after writing in the book, its owner must continue to use it at least once every 13 days or perish, and the second stating that if the book is made unusable by burning or shredding, everyone who has touched the book will die. With Higachi eliminated, I finished writing the names of the rest of the Yozuba group, eliminating any other pieces of evidence that could lead back to me or Light. Back at headquarters, the investigation team reviews the rules written in the book and find out that they can do little to get rid of it based on the first fake rule. Light silently thinks that this is what he planned, as if they tried doing anything with it, they could lose everything, unaware that they will mean his downfall. On top of this, they are facing another dilemma. The second rule proves Light's and Missa's innocence. The very specifics of the rule draw LS suspicions. He asks REM if all death notes are the same, and if there are more in the human world. REM says that there might be more and that they are the same, not entirely lying but also keeping Missa safe. The other members decide to let Light and Missa go, much to LS' silent dismay. Light, however, decides to continue investigating regardless, albeit without the handcuffs. After the task force says goodbye to Missa, Light orders Missa to go find me, who will tell her what to do. After finding me, I will guide Missa to the forest where Light buried the death note, and tell her to write the real name of L. However, she comically looks at me and cutely says she forgot it, while lightly tapping her left fist on her head. She would then ask Ryuk to make the ideal again. However, I tell her that if she does that, I will write her name in my notebook, killing her. Since I don't want her to waste her life and Light has other ways to deal with L, Ryuk then asks if I have any more juicy human world apples, with me giving him a bag full, handing me a Shinigami World one in return. After taking a bite from one, Ryuk explains that he had missed the taste and had been receiving severe withdrawal symptoms. Meanwhile, I bit into the Shinigami apple and spat it out instantly, as it was drier than the Sahara Desert. Ryuk chuckles at my reaction, reminding me that Shinigami apples are quite different from those in the human world, and they are not exactly known for their taste. As I hand Ryuk another human world apple, he savors it with delight, relishing the juicy sweetness. I watch him, amused by his enjoyment. It's a simple pleasure for him, one that connects him to the human world in a unique way. Ryuk finishes the apple and wipes his mouth with the back of his hand, looking satisfied. "Thanks, kid," he says, tossing the core aside. "You know, you humans really have something special with these apples." At Task Force headquarters, L continues to question REM about death notes, but she remains evasive, revealing as little information as possible to avoid implicating Light or Missa. Despite her efforts, LS' suspicion of their behaviors only grows. At Light's request, Missa begins to use her death note to kill criminals while singing a haunting Kira-themed tune and wearing a maid costume. This peculiar behavior further raises LS' suspicions about Missa's involvement, but Light denies any connection. Meanwhile, L wonders if a piece of the death note could cause the same effects as the entire notebook. He considers the fake death note rules that still maintain Light's and Missa's innocence. Overhearing Light and LS conversation, REM realizes that Light intentionally put Missa in danger to entice REM to kill L and, in doing so, kill herself. Later, Light finds L standing in the rain on the roof of headquarters, lamenting his distance from other people. The two of them converse, reflecting on the frequency of lies in their lives. When they return indoors to join the rest of the task force, L reveals his plan to test the fake 13-day rule by having a condemned criminal write in the death note. Before L can proceed, I appear next to REM, stopping her from sacrificing herself. I promise to carry out the task, on the condition that she doesn't harm Light. I then finish writing Vdari's name, killing him. Vdari presses a button that sets off an alarm and wipes the hard drive of the task force headquarters. L stares at the image of Vdari on his computer screen in shock, but before he can react, his eyes widen, and he falls out of his chair into Light's arms. Having had his name written in my notebook as well. L gazes up at Light, who grins devilishly. Realizing that he solved the case and his deduction was right all along, L's eyes close, and he dies peacefully. Light claims to the task force that he will avenge Vtari and L by solving the case. With everything standing in his way now gone, Light silently declares himself the god of the new world. After successfully slipping away from the task force, Light goes to retrieve the death note dropped by REM when she died, however his eyes widen in disbelief as I step out of the shadows, revealing that REM is still alive due to my intervention. He's about to protest, but I hold up a hand, stopping him before he can speak. Now, Light, I say, with a smirk. You must have come here to retrieve the death note, but since REM is still alive, you can't have that one. With a dramatic flourish, I reveal a second death note. The one formerly belonging to Mortis. This will be yours now, I declare, my tone serious as my eyes glow with murderous intent. Take care of it, Light. It's not something to be taken lightly. Light blinks, clearly taken aback by the sudden turn of events. 2 death notes, he mutters, almost to himself. Well, isn't that just my lucky day? I chuckle at his reaction. Consider it a bonus, I say. You've got power again. Just be careful not to let it go to your head. Light nods, a hint of excitement in his eyes. Don't worry, he replies confidently. I know how to handle power. As he reaches out to take the death note, I pull it back slightly, teasingly. Just remember, with great power comes great responsibility, I say with a grin, enjoying the moment. Light rolls his eyes playfully. I've heard that before, he quips, reaching again for the death note. But don't worry, I've got this under control. With a final nod, I hand over the death note, watching as Light's expression turns determined. Good luck, Light, I say sincerely. And remember, if you ever need anything, you know where to find me. With that, Light tucks the death note away, ready to continue his journey as the god of the new world. Okay guys, this is where I will be ending the second part of What If Demonic Saiyan Was in Death Note. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. With that out the way, this is Demonic Saiyan saying bye.